So I've got these two convexes in for restoration. This one here still has the decoration at the bottom, but it's missing an eagle at the top. You can tell whether a convex had decoration because it's got these slots that pieces of wood were screwed into to hold the eagle at the top. Now this is a Regency frame. I know that because of the bowl colour. This is the original gilding, but it's really, really worn. Lots of gesso losses. So the customers asked me to do the repairs, put a new eagle on and then re-gild it. Now this one, I think it might also be a Regency frame, even though it's got Victorian bowl colours under here. Now I think it's been over gessoed and then re-gilded in the Victorian times. I won't know that for sure until I strip this, but I've just got a feeling that that's what's happened to this frame. This frame also had the slots and a cut-off piece of wood, top and bottom. So this also would have had an eagle and a fan decoration at the bottom. But the customer has only ever known this mirror like this, so they don't want to have the old decoration replaced. So for this one, it's just remove all this old gold, do all the gesso repairs and a re-gild. So I'm going to be doing these at the same time because it's just much easier. So I thought I would show you the processes that I go through to get from this to the end result. So mercury mirrors have this grey, almost grainy sometimes back without any paint on, and it's really easy to scuff. You can see the edge there where the mercury is disappearing. Sometimes you get balls of mercury running around, so I have to be really careful when I'm dealing with mirrors of this age. They stopped producing mercury mirrors in about 1860. So these here, don't know if you can see that. See if I can roll them together. Are little beads of mercury. Now this is why I have to take a mercury mirror out, because I don't want these falling out into the workshop. So I'm going to scoop them all up, put them in a jar, make this safe to work on. Still finding bits of mercury under this paper, so I'm going to have to very carefully remove all this paper. I don't want loose mercury lying around the workshop. I'm really glad that's over with. I really don't like finding balls of mercury running around the inside of frames. It happens because it's a mercury glass, it deteriorates over time and they just separate and run around. I had to get all that paper off because it was sat underneath the paper. I hate doing that normally. I quite like leaving the history of the piece on there. If it has old paper, I usually leave it, but that wasn't safe for me. So I want to make this as safe as I can for me to work on. Anyway, that's all done. So the next thing is to start to remove these balls. These are wooden balls that are just on a little pin. They've got some gesso on there, but what happens is the wood slightly shrinks a little bit and the gesso doesn't, so you'll often find that it'll start flaking off. So what I have to do is remove all these, sand it right back to the wood and then gesso it all up. There is a video just specifically on how I did that. I will link that in the description so you don't have to go through that again. Right, that's all the balls out. Unfortunately, some of these snapped because they were really quite rusty. So I'm going to have to either re-drill those or maybe find some new balls. I'm not sure what to do about that yet. This is going to have to be sanded. I'm not going to be able to get this gold off with paint stripper because you can't remove water gilding with paint stripper. Oil gilding will come off straight away, but water gilding will just stay there. So the whole of that is going to have to be hand sanded, unfortunately. Now this one has got some oil gilding on the top here, but I was right. This is a Regency frame. When I was taking the balls out, it's uncovered tiny, tiny little pieces of gilding and that Regency colour bowl underneath here. Also, I've got a piece of this lamb's tongue decoration which is identical to this inner rim, and you can see it's been filled in. So there's been too much gesso put on top of the original layer. You don't do that. You always restore the original layer. You don't just layer on top of that because it destroys the decoration. So unfortunately, both of these are going to have to be hand sanded. So that's quite a lot of work, and it's about 6:30 now, so I'm going to call it a day today and come back in the morning and start that. That'll be fun. I've decided to give wire wool and meths a go rather than resort to sanding. Although water gilding won't come off with paint stripper, it should come off with methylated spirits. So I've got really fine wire wool, that's the 4 zeros. Water gilding should come off with, it would actually just come off with water. It baffles me why it doesn't come off with paint stripper, but I'm sure there's a reason. You really do have to rub at this. So as you can see, this job is a lot of elbow grease. So you can really now see that lovely Regency colour. It's a sort of a pale purple. So for this Regency Convex, it was missing its eagle. So the customer has chosen this eagle out of my mould collection. I've suggested that this plinth would look nice underneath the eagle. These side sections will go really nicely with this bottom fan. So I'm going to be pressing it out in the compo. So first of all, I've got to go and microwave the compo. Right, so I've marked on the bottom here 3B, which means I need 3 balls. I make my compo the same weight, so each ball is a 200 gram ball. That just means it's easier when I come to do something like this where I've already worked out how many balls I need. So I get a bit at a time. Now it's quite deep in there. I'm going to need some whiting on my fingers because it will be sticky. And I've got to get in right at the bottom there. It's not like a liquid that will just flow in. You really do need to push it in. You can create little air pockets and it just doesn't want to fill. I'm really trying to force it in these ends because again it won't want to go. It's really annoying if you miss them, you have to come back and sculpt them in. Right, so I've got some elastic bands around this mould because I've had to split it because his head is turned and he's got a little beak back there which you can't get in unless you've split the mould. Right, so I'm only taking a little bit and I'm going to try and get the whole of the beak. I don't think I've ever managed it. Usually because you get an air pocket and you can't do anything about that. Once the compo's in there, the mould wants to spread out, so that's why the elastic bands go on to stop that happening. Right, so we need to find a way of standing that up, because if you let it sit down, you can see the hot compo is just wanting to fall. The neater you can make this bit, the less trimming you have to do. So if you can get really neat across that edge, and you won't have to scalpel it off at the end. I'm sure I'll have to do some trimming, but hopefully not too much. Right, just let those dry. Probably going to take about half an hour to an hour before I can peel them out. Right, that's dry enough. It's this solid bit in the middle that you want to make sure that's dry, because these outside bits are thin, so they dry quickly. Right, well, we've got a few air pockets, but I can fill that, so I've got to trim all round here, but yep, okay, that'll do. Alright, I've got to try and pull him out without pulling his head off. There we go. Oh, look at that, I got him all. That bit there is my reference for that wing. And that there, that wing. So they'll get trimmed and stuck on like that. I'm going to bag it up. Leave it. If I leave it in the air, it'll dry, and I want it flexible for a while. So I'm just going to put it in some bags, and that way I can deal with that later on when I'm ready. What I'm going to do now is use some of the gesso putty and fill all these edges that are missing. So I put this piece of wood in here. I know it's really oddly shaped, and that's because of the way the eagle's going to sit on the top of this. So it's all sanded nicely. That's glued and screwed in. So the next job is to fit that. Then this leaves me with a sort of an off-centre, which I'm going to have to stack these two up there, glue and screw those on, and then the eagle will sit on top there. The eagle's got a hole here, so I want to avoid having wood behind that bit. The eagle's quite heavy, so I'm probably going to have to put some wire through there as well. Right, so first things first, I'm going to put some compo on the back of that, and these nails here are just going to support some of this because this is quite fragile. Right, that's not going to work. Put far too much compo here. I don't think you can do a mirror without something going wrong. Let's try that again. That's better. I want it really close to the frame. Having all that compo on there, I thought it would fill this gap a bit, but there was way too much on there. So the compo is just going to hold it while I screw it on or nail it on. Just checking it doesn't come through the front because it is quite thin there. I'm giving it a bit of an angle. Right, there we go, the plinth and the eagle are on. I think I'm happy with the alignment. The wings are slightly off. I can bend them a little bit. They're not totally dry. I'm going to have to leave that for about a week to properly set. I'm scraping away the over gessoing from the lamb's tongue decoration. The lamb's tongue is the bigger sort of V section, and in between is like an arrowhead, and you can't really see that arrowhead. If you have a look at my compo pressing, you can see it's really crisp and you can see loads of detail. And on the original, it's almost been obliterated. You can barely actually see what's there, and that is what happens when you over gesso. So you can start to see the previous layer. There's actually gilding there. It's much brighter than the gilding that's on the top. I then think, I don't think that's original, and I keep going. Oh God, another layer. This is the third layer now. And finally, there is a third layer, and under that is a sort of a reddy orange bole colour, and that is Georgian. It's a lot of work to pick out all that decoration, so I'm going to do some sanding. I'm going to start on the outside edge and work my way in. So we're now ready for bole. Both frames have been fully repaired and sanded. This one has also had all that over restoration picked out, so the decoration around here is really crisp. All the balls have been done, so I just need to get the bole on and then I can start gilding. Same as this one, it's been fully restored. The eagle is now absolutely solid, so I can go ahead and put the bole on this one as well, and then we can do water gilding. So I've managed to put the glass and the black slip back in, and I thought the mirror was now finished and ready to go. You can see the sparkles in the mercury mirror. Now that is breaking down, and unfortunately what happened is somehow some of the mercury has come and sat on that edge of the frame here, but it's not only there. I've got a tiny bit there, I've got some here, a big section there, some up there. What I'm going to have to do is gouge those bits out, because that mercury that's sat on there, you can't even see it, it's so microscopic, but it's turning the gold silver, and it will continue to do that. So I've got to gouge that out down to the gesso. Anyway, before I discovered that, I was quite happy with the finish of this mirror. This down here is the plain Georgian frame. I'm happy with the finish of that. I have checked it, there isn't any mercury on that, because I think I glazed that one first before I did that one. Right, so I've taken all the bits of mercury off. I don't know what it is about mercury when it sits on gold, why it turns the gold a silver colour, but it's going to continue to do it, so you have to get it off. So I've gone back down to the gesso, I've repaired the gesso, I've re-boled, and now I'm just going to water gild. So I'm just going to gild this one section, burnish it up, and hopefully I can match it into this. So there we go, I've now finished for the second time. All the mercury has now gone. The other mirror, the other convex mirror, has already been picked up, and the customer's come in to pick this one up. So I hope she is going to be as pleased as I am with it.